Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. A quick warning before we begin. In today's main stories update, there is mention of spousal abuse, so if that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip the update. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit True of My Chest and is by user WideArea6779. His mistress made him a better husband. I feel nauseous. This is a throwaway. I'm just nauseous and want to vent. Please let me do it here. Everything changed about 3 years ago, and my husband became my dream man. Before that, we suffered a lot in our marriage. After 2 hard pregnancies and postpartum depression, my libido was diminished and we fought all the time. After 4 years of a dead bedroom, we started therapy. I thought that was where the improvement came from. My husband started paying attention to me. In the beginning, I was panicking because whenever he paid me attention before, he expected sex. But now, it felt like he was seeing me as a human being for the first time. He was attentive and caring, emphatic. He touched and cuddled and kissed me out of the blue without wanting sex in return. He started helping around the house, bringing me flowers, taking out dinners when I worked late, and planning date nights. Anniversaries, birthdays, and holidays were planned perfectly, and I started getting the most beautiful and thoughtful gifts. When we fought, he would come the next day and admit his wrongs, and very accurately, if he was the one in the wrong. Something he had never done before. He would apologize too, when, back in the day, his apologizing would be a blow to his ego. He said he was happy all the time and lucky to have us as his family. Everything was better. I even got my libido back, if not as high as I hoped. And then I found their conversation about 5 years ago, and I probably spent over 50 hours reading them. 3 years worth of conversation. He would tell her his woes and she would listen. 99 out of 100 times she sided with me. She taught him about intimacy and how important it is in marriages. The tragically funny part is that he never got angry or offended by her telling him off, calling him silly, stubborn, or at times, man baby. Her honesty was brutal, and yet he agreed with her. She was the one suggesting all the changes, and he would ask her for advice about gifts, traveling, and all the beautiful things he did for our family. He thanks her all the time for helping him turn his miserable home life around and make it tolerable. Of course, in between all these texts, there were texts that were about them like nobody else existed around them. Flirting, sex talk, pictures, and longing to see each other. He says she is the love of his life every day and that he wishes their circumstances were different. She says the same. They both agree that divorce would ruin their families and that they couldn't be that selfish. How admirable. I feel nauseous. My happiness for the past 3 years was fake. I don't know what to do. I want to hurt them. I want to expose them. And I want to ruin whatever they think is perfect happiness. Wow, OP, this is an effed up situation. Your husband is scum and his mistress? Altruistic scum? I don't know how to define her. Now, I know you're not asking for advice or judgment, but if I was in your shoes, the first thing I'd do is make a copy of those texts. Evidence. Screenshots, send them to your phone, film them, any kind of hard and unrefutable evidence that you can use for your upcoming divorce and exposing their affair. Now, here's the hard part. Before you do pull the plug on this whole thing, I would advise you cautiousness in the sense that you first go meet a divorce attorney, check out what options you have, get your financial ducks in a row, and then, when you've got everything ready, then you push the button. You send all of your information to the affair partner's husband, and you serve your husband with papers. Now, I know that since I'm not in your situation, it's easier said than done. So this is the point where you need to grab and hold on to fortitude and not let go until you get through all of this. You and your children don't deserve this at all. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Lolly Cupcake says, I guarantee after infidelity, you will never feel the same about him again. Your love will never be the same and no amount of therapy can change that. Therapy could help move past some things, but it's never going to get that feeling back. You might care about him and be able to forgive, but speaking from experience, it's just not the same. And more than likely, you'll regret staying if you decide to stay. Small Eyes says, I wouldn't even know how to feel. That's such a punch to the gut. I would totally feel nauseous too. It is so twisted because I bet in their heads they're doing the right thing and sacrificing for their families. More likely, the only reason they flirt and get along is because they're in this secretive, exciting affair. They can hide in this narrative rather than doing the difficult work of fixing or leaving their actual relationships. What would I do? Take photos of the messages, take your important documents, your babies, pack, and leave. If you can find them, take copies and photos of any tax, income, employment documents for him, because mofo gonna pay you some support. Also, any docs about property, insurance, etc. But this is all secondary. I'd just get out of there because I couldn't clear my mind otherwise. And the Veggie Whisperer says, quote, 99 out of 100 times she sided with me, end quote. Damn if this isn't the most confusing and yet believable story I've read today. People are complicated, and the same person who can seriously tell your husband to be better to you can also have a secret affair with him and talk about longing to see him. I don't think your happiness was fake for what it's worth. I think your husband loved you and your family and wanted to be happy with you. This is one of those cases where maybe she helped him grow as a person and learn how to express it in ways that meant a lot to you. The emotional awareness and availability he showed were probably key to unlocking your libido again too. On some level, he probably valued this woman in part because she helped him understand you, his wife, better. The thing is, OP, all the things she told him are things you can communicate as well to any potential partner. You deserve better than to be treated like a sex ATM by an emotional distant man who blows up over minor incidents. Sometimes when we're invested in a relationship, we hesitate to speak tough truths. Don't hesitate. Good luck, and I hope you come out stronger on the other side. Additional information from OP's comments. He may have improved on all his issues, but it wasn't because he wanted to do it, or for me. He did it for her. I just don't understand why she wanted him to become a better husband and have a better marriage because of it. Our marriage is better, and he admits it to her and thanks her for it. God, I feel sick and confused and sick. Now, to be fair, if the roles were reversed and after 4 years of no sex, I don't know what I would have done. I never said I was right. I tried everything and things are or were improving. I know I will heal. My happiness doesn't depend on one person, even if it is the father of my children. I will just need time. I feel let down and I hate that he made me happy under these circumstances. Also, I never took him for granted. I made it clear how thankful I was for all the changes he made, and I, too, did my best to be the best version of myself for him. If you read his texts with her, he admits how much I see and appreciate his effort and how it has made me a better wife. Still, I don't know why he is improving his relationship with me. She usually tells him that we should find happiness in situations we cannot change. Maybe that's why? I want to understand myself. He doesn't want a divorce because it would mean lowering the standard of living for both of us. Two-income household, and he doesn't want the children to live between two small crappy apartments. His words. Also, his mistress doesn't live here, so it's not like he could be with her anyway, since he can't just move if we shared custody. In their messages, I saw that my husband wouldn't mind me cheating. In fact, he thinks it would be great if I agreed to stay married and have a lover or something. They have actually discussed this. But what he would be angry about is if his mistress slept with other men. Finally, for those of you who are curious about how I got the texts, I wasn't tipped off or that he behaved weirdly secretively about his phone. I totally trusted him. I never looked into his things. What happened was that he changed his phone and I thought that he deleted the old one. I looked just out of curiosity and it turned out he didn't wipe his old phone. Now, I want to send the information to his mistress's husband, but is there a way to send him the texts without a screenshot? I can't send him screenshots of tens of thousands of texts, and I don't know how to save them. Well, the community understands the pain that OP is going through and have done her best to try to help her get her head together regarding this whole nauseous thing, as she says, because it's gross. And OP gave us a little bit more context regarding this whole situation and how she found out and that she wants to expose this thing. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. But before that, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to click that like button, write a comment with your opinion in the comment section, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Now let's continue with the update. I was here 4 months ago with my original post. I finally decided that I really should reach out to the husband of my husband's mistress. I found him easily and I contacted him. He didn't believe me at first and was rude about it and told me to go F myself. I hesitated to contact him again, to be honest, but after a few days I realized that I, too, would not believe a stranger just popping in and accusing my significant other of cheating. So I recorded my husband's phone with my phone, especially the messages where she sent him explicit photos and stuff. I also went to the contact to show him her number. He didn't answer me the first day. Then he called me the C word and blocked me. I thought, well then, I had done my part and it was on him whether he believed me or not. Then after a week, my husband came home angry and he yelled at me for exposing them. He asked me why I didn't confront him instead, that my problem was with him. I had never seen him yell like this before, and then he packed a bag and left for about a week. I think he traveled to her. Later, when he came back home, he said that it was over. He said that he had been trying to make me happy for years and that he'd done everything a good husband would do, but still, nothing was good enough for me. I've made him miserable for years, and instead of taking it out on him, I chose to hurt a woman and her child. This last part troubled me. The husband took out his anger on her and their kid because he thought it wasn't his. Regardless, nobody deserves to be beaten by their spouse. My husband then moved into his parents' house and now he's renting an apartment. I have heard that he travels the weeks he doesn't have the children to be with her and that she's moving here soon when she gets full custody of her child. I have not been feeling well at all. Since he left, he has never spoken to me directly, and I haven't seen him. He adamantly refuses to talk to me as if I never existed in his life. I don't know what I have done to deserve this treatment. I know that, rationally, this is the best outcome, that I won't have to deal with a cheating, gaslighting husband, and I hope this is what I eventually will be feeling thinking back. But right now, I don't. She has the man I love, and worse, she has his heart. They won, and I hate that they won. Still, I don't blame myself at all for what happened, but that's what made him not even want to see or talk to me. He thinks I should have confronted him instead. He is not angry about the divorce. He is angry that I told the husband because of what he did to them. I told him that I would take him to the cleaners, and he laughed at me and said, "I'll give you anything you want as long as I don't see or hear from you again." Also, he is not trying to do the parental alienation thing, and he already has sent me warnings because my children have heard my family talk crap about him. I wasn't aware that my family did this. I would not have allowed it. She hasn't met my children yet, but I will probably have a say in whether and when she meets them. I will never use the children as pawns. He is their father and they love him. I will never try to come between them, and I will not try to get sole custody. People think it is a win to punish the father, but you deprived the children of their father. We have already told our families. His family is on my side, except his brother and his wife, who probably knew about the affair and said, "Good, I hope this new lady doesn't yell at him all the time." I blocked both of them. I am starting to believe the man I loved never existed. He has never been with me the way he is with her, not even when we were newly together. I don't know. I don't regret it, but sometimes I do. The thing is, I've heard the saying, cheaters will cheat, and if they cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. But I'm not going to wait for that to happen. I'm just trying to accept it and move on. My mom was the mistress. She and dad are still best friends and in love 44 years later. His ex still waited for them to cheat on each other. I will not make that mistake. Wow, OP, honestly, I don't know how to feel with this update. There are many condemnable things and a lot of questions that I still have. Of course, what happened to your husband's mistress and her child at the hands of her husband is horrible and appalling. Hopefully, she took legal action against him and he pays for what he did. Now, of course, in my opinion, there is never an excuse for cheating, but abuse is not the right response. And regarding the end of your marriage, OP, I think it's the best possible outcome. Based on everything that I got from your main post, your additional context, and this update, it sounds like you two just didn't work together at all. And all that fighting and screaming at each other is definitely not a good environment for your kids. And I would suggest that even though you're hurting and you feel like you lost, focus on your kids and try to make this process as painless for them as possible. And on that note, here's wishing you the best in the upcoming future. Thank you for sharing and take care. And now, if you need a mood booster post as much as I do, stick around and let's finish the video with that. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Pineapple8900. My guidance counselor told me I wasn't university material and years later, I pretended not to know her. I know it doesn't sound much like revenge, but it was oh so sweet, let me tell you. Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life, and a mom who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some might call a textbook narcissist with my mom as his flying monkey. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me and I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all my classes and was always doing very well on my assignments, but I had trouble completing them. My guidance counselor was the same all through high school and every year would start with a meeting with her and I would explain I needed more help because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I was obviously not trying hard enough because I had no excuse since my stepdad was, wait for it, a social worker for the school board and a personal friend of hers. Yeah, it was awful. At the end of high school, we had our obligatory meeting about what colleges and universities or trade schools to apply to. I told her I was interested in psychology and would like to be a counselor or to teach psychology. This woman scoffed, literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material and you may be better with a community college or even a certificate in administration." Now, let me say, there is nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something. Nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s. I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day to say, F it, I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and graduated with honors, so I went to Teachers College for another bachelor's degree. Again, I graduated with honors, and about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioral psychology. 2 years ago, my stepdad died, and who was at the visitation? My old guidance counselor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately, like she knew me, like we were old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm sorry, you must be confusing me with someone else." She looked absolutely shocked and said, "I was your guidance counselor for 4 years." And I just shook my head and gave the best blank look I could give, shrugged and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all of these good memories of her and how helpful she was to me as a teen, but nope. I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me, had zero effect even though she did affect me. I wasn't letting her know that. I felt pretty good about that. OP's Edit 1. To anyone wondering, I now teach psychology to future counselors, so I'm doing what I originally wanted, and that made this so much sweeter. Edit 2. Before this, my mom had run into her a few times at the grocery store and had bragged about my accomplishments, so I didn't have to tell her about them. She knew I was successful. Since she already knew, I pretended she was nobody to me to ensure she understood she contributed nothing. Also, those who say she helped me in the end and she was right, no. I asked her to help me for 4 years and got nothing. She laughed at my dreams and goals. She did not do her job. She failed as a guidance counselor and frankly, also as a decent human being. Well, OP, people can try to spin it however they want, but the fact is that you are right. She did not do her job, and you were successful in spite of her. So good for you, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.